Hey, what's up, guys? Blake from Top Dog Digital, and today I want to talk a little bit about pricing. So, this is always a major topic for new junk removal companies. We're always trying to figure out how do we price this job and that job? How do we price certain scenarios? Because there's so many variables when it comes to pricing. And one of the mistakes I see made pretty often is most of the time when I see these questions, it's usually in a group setting. And it's not even in a specific local group. It's usually in a major group that is pretty much all across the U.S. or even nationwide. And the answers that you're going to get from a lot of people in another area are not going to be relative to you at pricing. Because the way that you price in your area is going to be completely different than, let's say, somebody across the country. So that's the first thing that I want to get out of the way. Is if you are getting recommendations from somebody with pricing, just because they have expertise in the junk removal industry does not mean that their pricing is going to be accurate for you if they're in a totally separate market, because there are so many different variables when it comes to cost. So that's the first thing. The next thing is some of you are undercutting when you're brand new significantly on purpose. And for anyone who's new that's watching the channel, I want to get this through now to let you know that you might think that you're doing your business justice and helping yourself out by lowballing everybody in the area significantly. But what you're actually doing is lowering the value not only of yourself and your worth in your business, but also the industry as a whole, and you're devaluing it. Which is why a lot of times when you see the guys who have been doing this for a while, they're pretty unhappy or unsatisfied with new competition because they know that they're coming in and essentially devaluing not only their business, but also that, not only the person who is new's business, but also the one who has been doing this for years. Because they're making it seem like these jobs should be worth less, when in reality that is not the case. All right, you guys work very hard, and some of you are working very hard for not enough money. Okay? You really need to pay attention to that and make sure that you're not just pricing jobs super low so you can start to get work. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to a certain point, there's some of you that are pricing it so low, you're better off just being an employee somewhere than running your own business at this point. Because you're working harder for less than you would have by just working for somebody else. Okay? So, if you're new and you're watching this and you're really diving into pricing, make sure that you're not intentionally trying to undercut everyone significantly just so you think you'll get more work. Because in the long run, it's going to come back to haunt you. Not only are you going to have to raise your prices significantly, but if you don't, your business is probably going to fail in the long run anyway. The other problem is, when you have cheap prices, you get cheap customers. Nobody wants cheap customers, no matter what industry they're in. Cheap customers bring problems. They bring headaches. All right? They bring bad reviews. Things that you want to avoid. So, when you're starting out, really try and figure out the pricing of someone in your market. And first, I would say focus on the franchises first. Get a feel for what 1-800-GOT-JUNK is charging if they're in your area. Junk King, College Hunks. Get a feel for their pricing first. They're going to be the highest typically. And then also try and get a feel for a company that's in your local area that's doing really well. Because their pricing will be either a little bit lower, usually than the franchises, sometimes higher, depending on how relevant they are and how good they're doing in the area and how confident they are. But most of the times they'll come in a little lower than the franchises. And from there you can kind of get a feel for where you should be for most of these jobs. You're going to fail along the way most likely. You're probably going to make some mistakes and underbid on jobs. And most people have, and that's kind of part of the learning process. You want to do the best to avoid that as much as possible, but chances are, at one point or another, you are going to underbid a job. You're going to learn a lesson. You're never going to do that again. Hopefully, you get that lesson quicker instead of having to do it over and over again and realizing it the hard way multiple times. But that would be my recommendation for trying to get a feel for pricing, is recognizing the franchise's pricing, then going to the next tier and looking at some of the local guys who are doing really well, getting a feel for where their pricing is, and most likely with you being new, I'm not saying, guys, that you're new and you should be at the same price as one of the guys who is getting business all the time and has 205-star reviews, or the same price as one kind of junk. That is not what I'm saying to you. But do not be that guy who comes in here and is like, oh, well, we'll do it for $20. It's ridiculous. You're wasting your time. You're wasting everybody else's time. And you're making the industry look bad by doing that. So I'm hoping that this video, if it does anything at all, prevents someone who's new from doing that. Because you're only hurting not only yourself, but you're hurting the industry. And it's going to come back to haunt you and everybody else in the long term. So that is something that you want to avoid. I would try and connect with someone who is in the area. Some people are going to be very discreet about their information, and I understand that. Everybody handles things a different way. So you may have someone who is doing well, but they're not really going to want to discuss some of those things with you because you're technically a competitor. But there are some people who are willing to go over those details, and you can build a genuine relationship with them. I would try and go that route personally and find the right people. Of course, there's different tactics of how to find out pricing for people. Some are a little bit shady. I wouldn't be using shady tactics to find out. I'd try and build genuine relationships and show genuine interest in trying to build things the right way, because I'm sure that someone who is taking most of the market share in the area, they would probably prefer you at least build that relationship with them and try and do things the right way than to be that guy that comes into the market offering pickups for $20, $30, $40. All right? Because they know how big of a negative impact that has on junk removal as a whole. It just makes everybody else look bad. And it makes it look like this is an industry that doesn't know its worth. Because realistically right now, junk removal is still kind of a new industry, guys. So a lot of the customers don't understand how much it's worth and what the value is. And that's on you guys to lead the way and present that and make sure that you are getting what you're worth doing this, because all of you work really hard. If this was something that everybody from a customer standpoint could do themselves and it was easy, then they would just do it. But that's not the case. There's a reason they're calling you guys. There's a lot of labor involved in some of these jobs. You're taking care of the dump fees, which most of your customers don't even realize. All these things that are involved for you guys, the cost of fuel to get there and back and to the dump, the labor, you're paying your employees, which has gotten only more expensive and is probably only going to continue to rise for those of you who have employees. You need to make sure that's reflected in your pricing and showcase your true value in this industry. Because right now it's relatively unknown. And the franchises are doing a good job of putting it at a higher rate and giving you guys the margin that you can work upon to where maybe you're not as expensive as them, or maybe you are. But even if you aren't, you have enough room to be high enough to show your value and what you're really worth by doing this job. So for the new guys, I hope this helps. Please don't be that guy that comes into the market and does it for dirt cheap. You're not going to last. It's only going to negatively affect you. And it's just not worth it in the long term. All right. Build a legitimate business. Do things the right way. Price accordingly. Do your research. Hope this helps you guys. As usual, if you like this video, please give it a like. Hopefully this will help some of the guys who are more established too. Not deal with someone undercutting them ridiculously in the market. And I would love if you guys could subscribe to the channel. I always try and bring valuable tips and knowledge your way when it comes to junk removal. And hope you guys have a great day. Thanks.